When graphing a linear inequality, we want to make sure that it is in slope-intercept form. So we want the y on the one side and the slope with the x and the y-intercept on the other. So we want to start by graphing this as if it was an equation. So for our inequality, y is greater than 1/2 x plus 5, our slope m is 1/2, and our y-intercept b is 5. So then we want to graph the y-intercept on the y-axis. So I'm going to go up to +5 and put a point. Then from there, I'm going to perform the slope. So from that +5 at our y-axis, my slope is rise over run. So 1 is my rise, 2 is my run. So I'm going to go up 1 to the right 2. And I'm going to repeat that to get a couple points. So far, that's exactly the same as if we were graphing a linear inequation. So when we graph a linear inequality, connecting the dots is the first place that it's different. If we have a greater than or a less than sign, we're going to have a dashed line. If it's the greater than and equal to and less than or equal to, we have a solid line. In our case, we have just a regular greater than sign, so I'm going to connect all of these points with a dashed line. If you would forget to dash your line when you graph it, just simply mark the end of one of the arrows as dashed. That way I know that you meant to dash the line instead of making it solid. Now that we have our line graphed, we want to include some shading. So to include shading, we need to determine what side of that line, the top or the bottom, is where we have true values. So we want to make our inequality statement true. So to determine what is true, we're going to pick any point on our graph. I recommend picking the point 0 and 0 in the middle of the graph because it's going to make your substitution easier. Now if 0, 0 would be on the line that you just plotted, you need to pick something different. So you can have 5, 0, or 0, 2, or 1, 5, whatever point that you wish. So since I'm using the point 0 and 0, I'm going to say that my x is equal to 0 and my y is equal to 0, since the x coordinate is 0 and the y coordinate is 0. So I'm going to use those two values now to substitute into the actual equation. So the equation y is greater than 1/2 x plus 5. We'll substitute in the 0 for the y and the 0 for the x. Now I just have to simplify, so I'm going to take 1/2 times 0, which is 0, so it eliminates, and I'm left with 0 is greater than 5. Now I want to determine, is that a true statement or is that a false statement? So is 0 bigger than 5? Remember, your inequality sign wants to eat the bigger number. So since it is eating the 0, it's saying that 0 is bigger than 5. We know that to be false and not true. Since I have a false statement, I want to shade on the opposite side of our graphed line than the point 0 and 0. Since 0 and 0 is here below the line, I want to then shade on the opposite side, which would be above the line. If you had a true statement, you would cover up and take that 0, 0 point, because that's where all of your true values are coming from.